Today I'm going to be reviewing an orchestral track from one of our pro feedback members, Frank Dana. Frank has been a member with us from the very beginning, and I've reviewed quite a few of his tracks. And I wanted to just upload these reviews on YouTube so that you guys can see, first of all, what I bring to the table in terms of the types of feedback, the types of notes, the types of guidance that I basically can provide to you guys within the pro feedback service. And this is also very similar to the types of notes you're going to get from the other pros that I have hand selected and trained. But probably bigger than that, I really do want to start sharing with you this sort of common successes and mistakes that I hear being made by so many sync licensing producers across every type of genre. So when I upload these videos to YouTube, I'm going to try to vary it and do various different genres and try to mix it up a little bit. But what you're going to notice is if you watch all of these is there's going to be some common things that most people either get right or they more commonly don't get right. And so my job is to essentially try to be as honest as I can, let you guys know exactly what needs to be fixed in terms of making sure that your track is more appropriate for sync licensing and music libraries. So that's the type of feedback that I specialize in, and that's what we do in Pro Feedback. So if you want to learn more about joining us, there's a link below in the description that you can learn more about what the service is and potentially get your track reviewed next if you'd like to. So Frank, let's go ahead and get started on your track. One of the notes you wanted to know was, could this be placed essentially in a sports use in terms of could it be placed maybe right before a commercial break or maybe a promo or a montage of some sort of sporting event? Let's take a listen and let's see what's going on, and I'll definitely try to give you some notes in that direction. Let's go ahead. So before we go on with the track, I like the energy, I like the intensity, I like that you have this really intense staccato rhythm building up with the strings, these big drums coming in. So you're definitely setting the right tone and you're delivering us a really, really remarkable and very clear emotional place that we're going to go for the rest of it. So definitely I feel some sports vibes coming out of this. I wanted to point out though, there's essentially one big issue happening already within the first couple seconds of your track that would force this track to be passed on. That usually a library would say no thanks, and if it did get accepted by a library, probably wouldn't make it onto a sports placement. And that is the fact that you have actually some timing issues going on with your drums. So I noticed them here, and I notice these things probably more than the average listener because I am a drummer by trade. That's what I did for most of my life. But even if you're not a drummer, a lot of times a library still will be able to hear this and go, there's something not quite right about it. I'm not able to groove with this. We're just going to have to pass on it. So let me just go ahead and point this out for you. So right there, as we're going back into the one, there's like a little drag, boom, before we hit that drum hit. So essentially what I'm hearing is there's probably not enough quantizing happening, or this is sort of a loose performance where you basically try to just perform it, the best you could on the grid, but it's not quite there. So I heard a little bit of a drag and a little bit of a kind of a hesitation before we hit that drum hit. Mostly just right there. It just felt like it slowed down a little bit. So these are these little things though that as I'm getting, into your track and I'm feeling the energy, and especially if I'm a client and I want to, potentially place this in a sports opportunity, but I hear something that's just a little off and awkward, and maybe I'm not a drummer and I can't explain it to you, but I just don't feel right about it. This is the kind of thing that would get your track passed over. So you got to make sure you pay attention to those little details going on. So that was just the first thing, but let's go ahead and continue on with your track. Okay, so we have an attempt essentially to build up and bring out more intensity in this transition here. So the idea is correct. I definitely heard something like this happening as well. So you have this intro and then you want to really crank it up. The way that you structured this transition though is a bit awkward. So you have this kind of lead noodling guitar coming in. which didn't quite make sense why that's there. I like these little dark hits, boom, boom. And I thought maybe what we would do is just take a little rest and then have a swoosh, boom, into it. But then we have this kind of noodling guitar that's just thrown in there, and it's not really adding much to it. And it feels like almost like that should have been like a lead element further on in the track, but it's being thrown in this transition. So we got to remember what the point of a transition is. Usually a transition is to change energy, either to lift us up from where we were, bring us down, or just shift gears from going from one section to another section. That's usually what we're using transitions for, right? So always ask yourself this question. This is what I want everybody watching this to ask yourself. Why am I doing what I'm doing? So with this like noodle guitar going on in here, why is this there? It's adding some musical element to it, but is it really enhancing this transition? Is it making the energy of the track go higher? It's actually misleading. It's actually getting in the way of the transition because it feels like it's a new section of music starting, but we're not done with the transition yet. So it's giving this crossed mixed signal, essentially a confusing signification or a confusing message that are we transitioning or are we starting a new section? So there's a little bit of confusion happening right there. So something just to be aware of as you craft your transitions. Okay, so really cool grooving part here. I actually really do dig it. I think it's actually well made, well produced. I like the vocals. The issue I'm having though is it doesn't feel like it's really connected to the first part of the track, right? The first part of the track was this intense cinematic epic. You know, we're getting ready for something. Whoops, I don't know if that was playing right. There we go. Right, we're getting ready for battle, ready for war here, and then now we're just kind of just grooving. We're just chilling, and then this female vocal feels like it doesn't quite fit in with this track either. So the bigger zoom out issue that I could definitely give you is you need to have a focus on what is this track trying to be. Is it trying to be an orchestral, intense sports rock or a sports orchestral track? Great. We probably don't want to have a half tempo groove like this. We probably don't want to have those female vocals in a track like that. If you're trying to go into the sort of the rock direction with the female vocals, maybe we don't want these orchestral elements. So this is where having a reference track will save you on, years basically of your sync licensing career. So if you can go find those sports tracks that you really feel you want to get in the lane of and emulate and basically mimic how they're putting their tracks together and what kind of instruments and what kind of transitions and what kind of elements are they including in theirs, and you basically use those ideas to craft your tracks, you'll be in a much stronger position and you'll definitely have a lot more focus. Little timing issue right there. Again, little things. It was a little bit of a stutter happening with those two hits. And it's kind of the same thing with this noodling guitar here, where I actually think it's not a terrible idea to throw it here, but again, it's sort of trying to take the place of what was happening with these strings before, and I think we need those strings to amp up this section. Just the guitar by itself doesn't feel full enough, so maybe having these strings here in this middle section and then throwing your noodling guitar on top of it could maybe add to make it a little bit different from the first one and add that intensity and that energy. So same thing here, same notes we had before, but always, if you were to include this chorus in this track, you always want to make the second one a little bit more developed than the first one. So maybe we can add new percussion elements to this, change up the drums a little bit so it's not halftime. We could add a new guitar lead, we could add new guitar chords, maybe rhythm chords. You need to really amp up and build and develop your repeated sections. You never want to have the same chorus kind of happening over here, and then you copy and paste it and throw it over here, because they've got a copy and paste function. They can easily repeat this first chorus as many times as they want to. So the second one that you have going on here doesn't seem like it's adding enough to the track to move it forward. Okay, so I really like where you were going with the end of that track. Bum, ba, bum, ba, da, da, bum, ba, ba. It definitely needed to be extended longer, though. You really cut that way too short, and I felt like we didn't get that satisfactory ending. But this is where also using a reference track would help you. So this last chorus, I like the idea. You're building it up. You're having the new drums come in. Some of these cymbal crashes felt like they got choked off, though. You have these psh, psh, and maybe they're happening a little too often. So maybe we want to like hold off on those a little bit, and definitely make sure we don't have them like. One of them was like kind of cutting off. I heard a little bit of that weird kind of weirdness going on. But this last chorus is really repetitive. It's just kind of going on and on and on and on and on. And I really don't feel like the intensity is really getting that much bigger. I feel like in the beginning of the chorus, you really built up the intensity, and then it just sort of stayed where it was going to be and just kept on going and going. So right now the track is 2.5 minutes. This could easily be a 2-minute track. I really think you can cut off a lot of the fat of this one and really just shorten it up a little bit. But yeah, I think in terms of the overall look of this kind of a thing, I really do think this is a direction that you can get some placements in. But of course, you do need to make sure that you have that focus on where exactly you want this to land. So it's not just about, you have a cool groove, you have some cool ideas, you have some cool riffs, you want to throw it to a library and let's see if they can get you some placements. You have to be a little more methodical than that. You really do have to think about, okay, what kinds of clients do these libraries or the library I'm looking at, who do they serve? What kind of placements do they get? What kind of music do they have? Can I fit into their world? That's really the question you got to ask yourself. Is my music able to fit into the catalog for their clients that would potentially get placements? This kind of a track it's too spread out in too many different directions, so it can't really fit in. And even if a library owner might like your music and say, hey, I really dig what you're doing, they still might not be able to get you placements. It's actually happened to me where I've sent music to libraries and they said, hey, we like this, we're fans of it. We just don't have any clients that really need it. So unfortunately, we have to pass on it. So you don't want to be that producer. You certainly don't want to get that kind of an email back. You want to get the email back that says, thank you. You've done your research. You know exactly what clients we use. You've created music that's in our format that works for the catalog that we already have, and your quality is definitely right on par with what we're looking for. So, Frank, for you, I would definitely say getting those reference tracks, getting that focus would be first, and then you can start to obviously continue to improve all of your other talents in terms of mixing and mastering and transitions and all the other kind of things that we sort of talked about in this track in this review. But getting that focus, it's just the big thing for all of our careers that we really have to always keep our eye on. It's not just about what we're thinking about in terms of our, what we're feeling about creatively. Creatively, there we go. It's not just about that, but we really got to make sure that we are still serving somebody with our music. So anyways, Frank, I hope you found this feedback useful. And for everybody else, if you feel like this kind of feedback could really help you, if you want to get that sort of guarantee, am I going in the right direction or am I completely lost? What do I need to do to get myself on point? This is the kind of stuff that we help out with our pro feedback members. This is, in fact, a bonus review opportunity that I offer every single month to a few members on the platform. So you certainly could be next. So definitely click on that link below and consider joining us. We'd love to have you.